Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiana and this is Tiana's channel. And if you guys are new, please be sure to subscribe, hit that red subscribe button down below. And if you're not new, welcome back. So in today's video, I just wanted to cover a few different contraceptive methods that I've used in the past and just drop some knowledge on some pros and cons of each of these types and just share with you my experience, my personal experience with each of these. So I want to talk about in today's video the implant, pills, and the IUD. I've had all three and I want to share with you guys some of this information before you decide on what method you want to go and use. So if you guys are interested in any of that, make sure you stay tuned. So first things first, the pro for all of them, they're all effective. All of them are effective, and if that's all you really care about, then thanks for tuning in. See you next week for my next video. But if you do care about more than that, such as the side effects of each, I do want to go into a little bit of detail about what I experienced with each of them. And the first one I want to talk about is birth control pills. So for the pills, a lot of people think that a con is having to take them at the same time every day. And I can see how that's kind of like annoying, because who knows what you're going to be doing at this time tomorrow or this time in 2 or 3 weeks from now. Like, you never really know. Everyone has like an unpredictable schedule. But for me, that wasn't really a con. Like, I definitely took my pills every single time at the same time every single day. Like, I was not skipping a beat, okay? Because I just wanted to avoid pregnancy at all costs. And yes, I know you can do that being abstinent, but that's another video for another day. But for the pills, what I liked about it is that the effectiveness is in your control. You just have to be responsible and take them at the same time every day, and basically you're controlling the effectiveness of the pills. So pro or con can either be a good or a bad thing for some people. So pills are often prescribed to help alleviate some period cramping for females. Definitely a girl talk video. Sorry if there's any guys watching this. I don't really know why you'd be watching this, but you know, welcome. But anyway, a lot of people are prescribed for period cramping, but for me it was to help regulate my acne, because as I've talked in previous videos, I had really bad acne growing up, and so these hormones that were in the pills were supposed to help minimize the frequency of my breakouts. But that didn't really work for me, so I just stayed on the pill for a few years after that. And I would say the turning point for me would be the kind of pills that I was on ended up getting sued. There was a lawsuit out for them because it was causing blood clots. A lot of people were suffering heart attacks and whatever, and I felt that developing within myself. So there have been plenty of times where I just thought it was my time to go. Like, I felt blood clots. I never sued the company or anything, and that company is not even around today, but I definitely felt the side effects of it within myself and decided to stop using it because, for one, I did get scared, and two, I care about my health, and three, there are plenty of other methods to take. So I did stop using the pill, and actually I'm not even sure if today's pills cause those kind of issues. I'm sure they've straightened that out, but this was like a decade ago. But that is what I experienced with taking pills. So because of that, I decided to move on to a different method of contraceptive, and that was the implant. And the implant would have a ton of pros because mainly it's good for 3 years, and you don't have to have any kind of responsibility of taking it every single day. This is not a method that you have to remember to take for it to be effective. Once it's in you, it's good for 3 years. And the kind I had was Implant, and I don't think that's around today. What's around today is Nexplanon, so if you're thinking about getting that, they're pretty much one and the same. I got it in my arm, and it's pretty much like a minor surgical procedure, if you want to even call it that. They just take a long needle, and it's pretty thick, and they stick it in your arm after they numb the area, and it's pretty much in place for 3 years. So as I mentioned previously, the pro was that it did work. It was effective. I got on the method because a lot of my friends got on it and they had no complaints with it. However, for me, I had a different story. When the implant is put into your arm, it is bandaged, and you have the bandage on for some time until the hole closes up and the implant is now in your arm. And the way to get it out is to get it surgically removed. And by surgical, I do not mean you're like on anesthesia, like going under the knife. This is really just a local anesthetic, and they take a little knife and make a little millimeter cut and then just slide it out. It's not a serious procedure at all. But in my situation, that's not how it happened. After it was inserted the first time, the hole never closed. I would walk around and the implant was still sticking out of my arm. So even though the second attempt was successful and the hole closed up, everything went smoothly, the implant was in place, I had scarring, and that's kind of what upset me about the whole implant experience. None of my friends had scarring, but if you look at my arm, I do have 2 scars on my arm, and that is from the first and second attempt of getting the implant inserted into my arm. And these scars are probably never gonna go away. So do I regret getting the implant? Yes, in a way I do, because it messed up my body. And if you even watched my previous videos about getting piercings and tattoos and stuff, you know I don't have any, and that's because I like to keep my body the way I was born with it. How I was born is how I want to die. And yes, I know scars happen throughout your lifetime, but this was something that could have been prevented. This was a choice I made, and now I have to live with these scars in my arm. But I'm not trying to scare you away. If you want to get it, get it. I do have plenty of friends who got it and don't have any scars whatsoever. So everything went smoothly for them, but I'm just sharing my stories. Another thing I want to mention about this birth control in particular was it was one of the more affordable options. So when I first got it put in, yes, I did have health insurance, but 3 years later when I got it taken out, I did not have health insurance. So I went to Planned Parenthood and got it taken out. And I thought, at the time, I thought Planned Parenthood was just an abortion clinic. I was definitely uneducated, didn't know anything about Planned Parenthood or any of the other services they offer. But once I got the services myself, I definitely became an advocate for Planned Parenthood. And like, if people want to shut them down, I'm just like, no, like they do help a lot of people. They offer so many services to people who don't have health insurance. But that's just my opinion. I don't know, some people feel strongly about abortion clinics and all that. But after getting their services, I was just mind blown at everything that they offer. So I personally am an advocate for Planned Parenthood, but of course you are welcome to have your own opinion about them. Moving on to the last method of birth control that I used, it was the IUD, and it was Paragard specifically. And I got this because it's made of copper, or it has copper wiring, and it's non-hormonal. And when I got this IUD, I was pretty much at like a transitional point in my life where I wanted to go natural with everything. So I just wanted to be mindful about what I put into my body. And previously, the birth control methods that I've used were pumping hormones into my body. So I wanted to go a more natural, non-hormonal method of birth control. So I went with the IUD. And if you're not familiar with an IUD, it's just a T-shaped rod that goes through your vaginal canal and sits in your uterus. And this is also a method that is recommended for women who have had children. And I personally have not had any children, but I did have a few friends who tried this method of birth control before me and did not have children and recommended it. But one of them told me, I mean, she's not a doctor, but she did tell me that they recommend you have children first before getting the IUD because it doesn't hurt as much. I guess things are more expanded down there and it's more comfortable going in. The insertion process is more comfortable. But if you haven't had children, things are a lot tighter, I guess, and maybe more painful. But if you can tolerate pain, it doesn't really even hurt that much in my opinion. But if you can tolerate it, you can definitely get it even though you haven't had children. I'm an example. I've never had children, never been pregnant, and I was able to get the IUD. But moving on to the pros and cons of this particular method of birth control, this one was good for 10 years. So I was solid. Like, I love the fact that I didn't have to think about this anymore. 10 years and I'm good to go. And I like the fact that there's no hormones being pumped into my body. So at the time I got it inserted, I had finished Accutane and I didn't want any hormones to flare anything up after going through an intense medication like Accutane. So it would just make it go to waste, and I did not want that. I didn't want to risk it, so non-hormonal was the way for me. But the not so nice things about it, I would say, is there's just a short period of time where you're bleeding after it's inserted, which is uncomfortable. And then 2, for me, similarly to the implant, this also had to be placed in me twice. And another one of my friends had this happen to her too, where the IUD ejected itself. So that just means it becomes dislodged from the uterus, and for me it was sitting in my cervix and I didn't even know it. So I went to the doctor and the doctor checked it out and was like, I'm surprised you haven't gotten pregnant because this is not even in place. And that was very alarming for me. So she took it out and reinserted a brand new one. So I had 2 attempts with the IUD as well as 2 attempts with the implant. and I'm a generally healthy person, so I don't know why this happened to me and my friend as well. So just be careful. That's just something to look out for. You might not even know what happened. Like, I didn't even know it happened. So yes, it can eject itself. It can also be pierced through your uterine wall. That sounds painful too. So just be careful, because there are risks that you take when getting something inserted inside of your uterus. Something else I was not fond of was this was the most costliest birth control method that I've used. Out of all three, this was the most expensive. So it cost about $700 to get put in and another $700 to get it taken out. And keep in mind, I had this happen twice. So for the first time, it was inserted $1,400 down the drain. Second time, it got inserted. This one stayed, but I experienced side effects that I was not happy with, and I got it removed. I don't think this side effect is listed on their website, but a common side effect of IUDs is yeast infections and BV and vaginitis and just other issues in that area, and that can be very, very uncomfortable for some women. But my doctor said despite this happening, she sees a lot of women come in that have yeast infections and BV and whatever have you, and she said that's not enough to make them want to get it taken out. I was just like, are you serious? My doctor said she had just come from a conference and they were just talking about this topic, and there's plenty of medical journals that will confirm that IUDs have a lot of associations with BV and yeast infections in women. So for me, this is shocking, because I know personally I don't want to walk around having something compromise my health just to not get pregnant. Like that, I would rather abstain and be completely abstinent at that point. So if you are thinking about using this method of contraception, make sure you do your research, read medical journals. You will see that there are plenty of published articles that go into detail the commonalities within these issues that these women share. So proceed with caution, basically, is what I'm telling you. But yeah, so not to scare you away, because I also know plenty of people who have had successful experiences with the same IUD that I had. But I'm just here to tell my story and my experience. If you are in the middle of choosing which one you want to go with, best of luck, and I hope you have better experiences than I did with each of these. I know this video was kind of personal, but hopefully it was informative and you were able to get something out of it. I post videos every Sunday, so make sure you guys are subscribed to my channel to see more. With that being said, I will see you guys next week in next week's video. Bye guys.